Good morning again, everyone. Welcome to this morning's edition, this Labor Day special edition of the Masters of Mind Call. Again, I know those grills are ready to be fired up. Everyone is probably planning on getting out and seeing family, having a day off from labor, hopefully. So I definitely wish you a happy Labor Day today, and definitely hopefully they're blessed and enjoyed one as well. This morning, ladies and gentlemen, the call was really inspired by a number of events over this weekend. I've been walking around with the title of the call in my head. It's really been ringing in my ears for the last few days. And last night's millionaire mentorship call absolutely solidified that the title of my spirit was exactly the direction I needed to go. And then it was further solidified, and actually a family call that we had last night, and just hearing the things and listening to family and what's going on in their lives was definitely a direction for me this morning. So this morning's title, you all, I decided to call it The War of Perspective. The War of Perspective. And the first thing that when I heard this title in my spirit, the first thing I thought, well, what exactly is perspective? So as we always do, the first thing I did was I pulled out a dictionary, okay? Looked into Merriam-Webster dictionary, and they define perspective as a mental viewpoint at its very base, a mental viewpoint. And I said, well, let's break that down a little bit farther. What exactly is that saying about perspective? What mental viewpoint? What does that say exactly what a perspective is? Well, the first word, mental, I really looked at and I thought to think to myself, well, wow, if a perspective is mental, it means that it's very subjective. That every individual can have their own perspective. Why? Because, we all have different experiences, different things that we've learned, different attitudes that we've learned, different bits of information and knowledge that we've picked up throughout the years. So my mental state is completely subjective to me. It's my mental viewpoint. You can't have my mental viewpoint because you have not lived my life, and vice versa. I can't have your mental outlook because I have not lived your life. I don't know all of the ins and outs, all of the things that happen in your life that maybe everyone doesn't know about. That's created the mental outlook and the mental attitude that you have towards the outside world. Okay, so the very first thing is I thought that was really strong. That everyone has this mental picture of the world. And that picture, when you talk about being mental again, is really based in the spirit realm. Okay, understanding that our minds, where our mental capacities come from, our mind, which is not our brain. As we've come to understand, your mind and your brain are two totally different things. Your mind is that connection between the physical and the spiritual realm. Your brain is just the organ in the physical realm that your mind uses to relay a lot of the spiritual laws and spiritual information that we have out in the world. That's how it really comes into the physical realm through your particular physicality, so to speak. And then we looked at viewpoint, again, the mental viewpoint. And I looked at viewpoint. It mentions a viewpoint, and it's a singular, if you notice. It's not viewpoints. It's a viewpoint, which means, of course, there are millions of different points in the world. And what that tells me is that any particular viewpoint can change at any given time. The two main factors are going to be the time factor. When we talk about, the physical realm, I think that viewpoint is dealing specifically with the physical realm, but the time factor all right, and a distance factor. You know, how long has it passed since you had an experience, that you've learned a piece of knowledge, that you've developed these attitudes that we've learned throughout life? How much time has passed? How much, how integrated into your life have those things become over time and over distance? You know, how close are you to whatever the experience is? How close are you to the knowledge that you've gained, the information that you're taking into? How physically close are you to the people in your lives that really affect your attitude? How close are you to those people? So what that tells me is that a perspective, all right, is really a way of looking at things based on your own personal experiences, your own personal things, and how close you are in time and distance to those things that you've learned. And I think that's a little bit broader definition of what a perspective is. And then, of course, the other part of that is war. You want to look at, you know, why do I say this is a war, all right? Because I call it a war because a perspective can really be one of three things. It can be positive, it can be negative, or it can be neutral. Now, I will admit that it is very seldom is it neutral, all right? I probably say 99.9% of the time, you know, our perspectives are either positive or negative, all right? And that in itself is the war. You know, learning how to keep our perspectives positive and moving in a progressive state as opposed to what we as humans do on our very instinctual basis. Very natural for us to be negative, all right? So it becomes a war, not to let the negativity of the world skew our perspective and make us negative individuals. The war is to stay positive in a world that wants us to be negative. You know, I'll give you an example. You know, I am definitely not immune to this at all. My personal issue I've learned throughout my years is I have a absolute anger when it comes to injustice. You right? You know, like I cannot watch the news. I cannot watch the news because when I see the injustice and the wrong done in the world, it literally makes me angry. I mean, imagine walking down the street with your mother and some guy just coming out of nowhere and smacking your mother right in the face. Angry. That's what injustice does with me. But I also understand that anger is a very negative and destructive emotion. My personal war is tempering my anger for injustice and funneling that energy in towards a more positive and productive use. That's me. You know, as you always say, as I always say, you know, it's not what happens to you in the world, but how you respond to it. All right. I personally have to learn how to let the anger go so that I can deal and work with injustice and fight injustice in a more productive way. All right. What am I saying here? The war, you all, is not on the physical plane. All right. There's this phrase that I'm sure we've all heard. It's, you know, we fight fire with fire, and you know it can work. All right. Fighting fire with fire, though, is a technique. All right. It's a tactic. All right. Tactics work sometimes. They don't work sometimes. So what I'm saying is the war is not based on tactics. All right. The war is learning how to use the natural laws and the spiritual principles that are out there that are unfailing. You see, a tactic can fail you. All right. An approach can fail you. All right. Spiritual principles and natural laws never fail, though. You know, right? And that is the war. All right. Using those principles, using those laws to keep your mindset positive and moving in the right direction so that your own emotions don't get in your way. All right. And if you're honest with yourself, you'll see these things in your life. All right. You know, the war is on a very, let's bring it down to an everyday level here. Okay. The war is not that your bills aren't paid. Okay, the war is not focusing on the fact that maybe there's a financial difficulty. The war is waking up every morning grateful that you're blessed with another day to get it right one more time, to be a little bit more effective today than you were yesterday in getting your financial goals accomplished. All right? The war is not being sorrowful that maybe a family or friend has passed away, into the spiritual plane here. The war is making sure that you're grateful and happy about the memories of that person while they were here. All right? The war is not to focus on, an attempt that maybe wasn't successful, but to be confident that in that failure, you've learned a lesson that today and tomorrow you'll be better than you were yesterday. That's the war. The war is your perspective. All right? It's not what happens to you in life. It's how you respond to what happens to you in life. And that all comes from your perspective of the world. How do you see things? Do you see the cup as half full, or do you see the cup as half empty? Me personally, I try to always see the cup as full. It's half full of water and it's half full of air. It's always full, okay? And that is a war. How are you looking at the world? What has the attitudes that you've learned, the experiences that you've given yourself, and the knowledge and the information that you've put into your mind, how is that affecting the way you see the world? And what new experiences are you going to give yourself? What new information and knowledge are you going to put in your mind? What new attitudes are you going to start to learn to change the negative aspects of your perspective and change them into positive perspectives on how the world? And when those emotions come into play, that's when you find your purpose. That's when you start to move in the direction that you were put on this earth to be. It's not about what happens to you in life. It's how you respond to what happens to you in life. Listen, I want to thank you all again for joining me here on the Masters of Mind call. Again, it's always a pleasure to serve you guys here on this platform. I want to wish you all a wonderful day, phenomenal week. God bless you all. Let's get out there and let's take charge. God bless.